Namaste. Great to see all you guys. I just wanted to kind of touch base and kind of just talk about what's all been going on lately in the world, what's been going on with me personally. And there's just there's a lot that's happening in the world right now. There's a lot that's happening in politics. There's a lot that's happening in astrology. A lot that's happening in our day-to-day lives. And I've just been kind of thinking about that as I'm kind of moving through that energy and discovering these different things about myself, discovering these different things about how to live more fully, more wholesomely, more joyfully. A number of months ago, I think about the end of September, beginning of October, I was in California and I went to Bhakti Fest. And so Bhakti Fest is this spiritual festival where people come together to express themselves openly and freely, to connect. It's a gathering of seekers and every type of person. Everything from hippies to people who go to Burning Man, to people who are devout spiritual renunciates, to just all sorts of different types of people, every type of person, yoga professionals, business professionals, all these things, everyone coming together to just share in this place of just love and companionship and connecting in a very genuine way. And bhakti, is this path of selfless love and devotion. And we kind of come together in this big group of people to sort of share in that, to share in love and devotion and togetherness for our collective spiritual upliftment and seeking. People from every religion, people from their lack of religion, from different philosophical backgrounds, from different, financial backgrounds, all these things. Everyone just comes together and they just share in this place of just unconditional love and openness. And that's really what Bhakti Fest was for me. It was this kind of letting go of my expectations, letting go of my sort of attachments, and just surrendering to whatever I was being offered day to day, not trying to, I need to go see this thing or I need to go do that thing, just waking up and just being like, what is today offering me now? And I found that, the happiest I've been in my life is in those moments where I find this sweet spot between surrender and assertion. This place of unconditional love and service, but also in a place where I'm fully honoring myself. I'm fully expressing who I am without reservation, without need to be something that I'm not, to try to adapt to this person or that person, to try to do what I think somebody wants me to do. And when I come into that place of center, that place where I'm just being 100% myself and just fully present in my experience, present in the space that I'm existing right here and now, not worried about the past, not worried about what's happening in the future, not even worried about what's going to happen an hour from now, all of a sudden, everything becomes possible. I become in this place of just both surrender and activity. It's like this place of absolute manifestation, because I'm just open to what is the universe offering me right here, right now. And that's what it was. When I went to Bhakti Fest, I found that I just arrived. I was in this place of just openness and service. Anyone who needed help, I just helped them. I just went to wherever I was being guided, and magic happens. Magic happens in these places. You run into these people that you weren't expecting. I went there alone. I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything. I actually picked up a stranger, on the way there driving. And it was this older woman. She was also going to the festival. We were doing this ride share thing, and I just went and picked her up, and, and we had this beautiful interaction. And through that interaction, when we arrived at Bhakti Fest, then I just helped her, and we had this. It's a big ground. It's maybe a half a mile of ground or more. And she has all of these suitcases and all these things, and I'm dragging them with her through the sand and carrying these heavy bags, and I still have my own bags. I don't even know where I'm supposed to go, but I'm just surrendered in this place of just service, this place of just like, oh, I'm just going to be. This is what the universe is offering me. What the universe is offering me is this chance to connect and help this woman get to where she needs to do. What does it take away from me? Nothing, right? So then I helped her go to this place, and one of the first people I ran into was this girl named Gopi. And she was just this really nice person. She too just had arrived at the festival and was just kind of helping. And we just connected and that kind of stuff. Well, we got all the way to the place where this lady needed to go, and she had forgotten her phone at the front of the place. So this older woman that I was helping had forgotten this stuff. She didn't know the code to get into her trailer. So it was just like, okay, well, I guess I'll just help her. So I just walked back, and this girl, Gopi, I went with, and we kind of talked and just connected. Beautiful, beautiful person. And we got back to the front of the thing. I got the phone, I got the codes, I did all these things, and Gopi and I split ways. And so I go and I fulfill the rest of this sort of service that I was doing, and then I was like, okay, now after I've done all this, I'm maybe over an hour, maybe an hour and a half into being here, and I haven't even begun to sort of fulfill my own needs, my own obligations to go place myself in my tent and all these things. So then I begin this process of just sort of wandering, and then there's a huge amount of space in which you could put your tent, where you could just be. And I just kind of was wandering, and I found this nice tree. It's in the desert. We're in near Joshua Tree. I think we're in 29 Palms, I think is where it was. So it's very hot. So I just found this quaint little place, and I began setting up my stuff, and lo and behold, it ended up, out of all the potential places it could have been, out of the hundreds of people, hundreds of tents and random places that was already existing there, this friend that I had just met, Gopi, they were also camped there. And so it began this sort of relationship of just camaraderie and love, and just these beautiful person that I had met just simply because I had allowed myself to be without expectation and to just move into this place of seva, service, just selfless service, and just coming from a place of love. Then I met these people who, they just lived that. They approached me that way. And I just wandered. Every single day was like this. My dear, one of my favorite spiritual teachers, Radhanath Swami, one of the closest thing I know to being my own personal guru. I have so many auspicious connections to this beautiful, beautiful human being. And I didn't even know that he was going to be here on this day. And I'm just wandering. And then all of a sudden, there he is, right there. He's just standing there. And I go up to him, and I hadn't seen him since I was in India last. And so it's been maybe a year and a half, almost 2 years at this point. And we see each other, we recognize each other, and it was just this beautiful love and connection, and just being able to be received by this person that I have so much respect for. This person who is just so in tune with themselves, in tune with God, all these things. And we just had these remarkable experiences throughout this whole time period. And all of these experiences uplifted me. They inspired me. They made me feel like, oh, I'm on cloud 9. Like I'm gonna really do it. I'm gonna come back, and I'm just gonna really make stuff happen. And like with anything, when we go away on a vacation, we go away on a spiritual retreat, we go to these workshops and all these things, we get lifted up, and then we come back into the world. And then slowly, another friend brought this up to me, that something that often happens for me personally even, is that I go out into these things and I become so inspired and so big, but then slowly the worldliness starts to creep in, this obligatory energy, these sort of things start to weigh on me. It's like putting on all these attachments, all this habit energy, all this stuff. And then slowly I get dragged back down, and I start to lose that sort of happiness and that bliss and that openness and lightness that I feel. And I think that happens to all of us. We go out and we retreat. We retreat from the world. We need a vacation from our life. We need to escape our life. And then we get this brief reprieve and we feel great. We're like, oh man, I need to do this more often. Wow, I feel great. And then we just come back and we sort of lose sight of what truly matters. We fall back into habits. We fall back into satiating base pleasures, just doing things that make us feel good for even a moment. We just kind of do. We get back into this, just like, I need to just survive. I don't need to be happy. I don't need to be as big as I can. I'm doing the bare minimum just to make it day to day. And then when we're in this state, time flies. Like a month goes by, 6 months goes by, a year goes by. And then when I reflect on those things, I'm like, oh, did I really do anything of substance? Did I honor myself? Did I do anything worth remembering? And when I sort of recognize that I go through this sort of cycle of going away, coming back, going away, coming back, and it's sort of this process of being dragged down and then lifting up and dragged down and lifting up, that's not a sustainable cycle. That isn't going to make me go long. I can't live life to the fullest if I'm always just like filling myself up and then riding out to empty, filling myself up and then riding out to empty. It doesn't work. So then I had to ask myself, what is the key? What is the essence of why I feel this way? What is it that actually is dragging me down? And a lot of what it realized is that it's the things that I thought were making me feel good. It's the things that I thought were bringing me pleasure. The things that I thought that were relieving stress, that were bringing me happiness. But they weren't actually necessarily bringing me happiness. They weren't actually satisfying my inner desire. They were more so just sort of satiating it for the moment. They were covering it up. It's like I can eat, if we're hungry, I can eat McDonald's every day and be full. I can satiate my hunger. But am I nourished? Am I truly satisfied in all the tastes and all of the things that are coming to me? No, probably not. I mean, it's okay, it's nice for the moment. But when we really find the things that are really uplifting, really are bringing us true happiness, then all of a sudden life becomes sweet. It's like this sweet nectar, this sweet blissfulness that exists under everything. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh wow, I'm full of energy. If I'm impassioned and I love doing something, then I can do it all day long and it doesn't take anything away from me. But if I'm doing something and it's just constantly draining me and it's really not filling me back up, then it's sort of this illusion of being full. I may not be hungry, but I'm not actually nourished. So as I kind of fell back into that dip, that after being in this high of Bhakti Fest and slowly kind of coming back into this worldliness, it really challenged me just to analyze really what is going on inside? What is it that I'm truly seeking? And what's really coming to me over and over again is this aspect of just being fully present in our experience, fully appreciating, what is it that I have here and now? When I think about the practice that I've been kind of practicing a lot right now is like so I hang out with somebody and I hang out with this person, and when I'm done hanging out with that person, kind of reflecting in that moment, like, how did that make me feel? When I left that interaction, did I leave feeling uplifted? Did I leave feeling inspired? Did I leave feeling nourished and loved and accepted? Or did it kind of sit heavy in me? Did it kind of feel like it brought me down? It was actually exhausting. It actually made me a little bit just stressed out. I was just kind of like, ugh, you know? And I think this is true of everything. You know, when we're truly present in our experience, we can sort of enter into the space of awareness and contemplation and just being honest with ourselves. It's like, if I go on a walk, how does that make me feel? If I spend 6 hours on Facebook, or I watch 25 hours of a TV show, how does it really make me feel? I was seeking relief. I was seeking pleasure. I was seeking these things, but did it actually satisfy my need? Did it actually satisfy that desire? And as I'm sort of developing this awareness of essentially developing my discernment, and then developing the ability to assert my needs, to assert my wants, to hold space for myself, then all of a sudden I'm able to operate in this much more clear place of being able to approach myself with absolute, like, satya, this truthfulness. That's something that's been continually coming up, is just how to be fully honest with ourselves and to stop, the first person that we lie to is ourselves, almost unanimously all the time. We tell ourselves all these stories, we make all these excuses, we come up with a reason to do something. We have an excuse for everything. But, like, did it really do anything for us? I'm like, oh, I'm going to do this, and that's going to make me feel good. But then actually, no, it didn't make me feel good. So you have to kind of go through this process of just developing an awareness in an inner dialogue and a communication and an honesty with yourself, to just essentially sit with yourself and ask, what is it that I'm really seeking? What is it that I truly want? What is it that I truly desire? What fulfills me? What truly makes me happy? What is really nourishing me in my life? And if I can really sit with that and just accept that for whatever that is, and that is kind of painful sometimes, because sometimes that means that I need to let go of something. I need to let go of someone. I need to let go of this habit. I need to let go of this job. I need to let go of this housing situation. So it's not easy. It's kind of like, it's like building a fire, right? It's like this, I'm like going through this process of purification, increasing all of this sort of intense sort of, we're like working through these very deep processes that take a lot of energy, that take a lot of strength to work through. And it's uncomfortable. And it makes you feel sort of disillusioned with the life that's happening around you, with the people that are happening with you. You feel unsatisfied with some of the connections that you have and the day-to-day existence. We kind of get in this survival mode. But as we sort of connect to those things that are fulfilling us, that are nourishing us, and are going through this thing, then we kind of begin this process of developing our sort of foundation. It's like developing the furnace of the forge. It's like I'm developing this thing so that I can then begin to put my energy towards that and to sort of increase this heat so that I can begin this process of sort of purifying and letting go. It's, this kind of tapping into our powers of creativity, our powers to sustain, our powers to destroy. And when I say destruction, I mean the power of destruction for the purpose of recreation. Kind of similar to like how a prairie fire is seemingly destructive on the surface, but it clears away the debris, it clears away what is unneeded, and it leaves sort of nourishment for new growth. So we have to kind of practice this, our powers of discernment, our powers of assertion, and being able to just really be honest and loving towards ourselves, so that we can really get to that place that we're seeking to go, so that we can really begin to live the life that we want to live, so that we can begin to be fulfilled by the connections and the habits and the things that are existing in our life, and to be able to go out on a limb and be like, I'm going to do this thing that I'm a little uncomfortable with, this thing I'm a little bit of afraid of. And to challenge ourselves to like, okay, like I might be afraid of this, but why am I afraid of it? I'm actually probably only afraid of it because it's sort of unknown. It's uncertain. It doesn't go with what society has said. It doesn't go with what I was taught. It doesn't go with the expectations or the obligations that are around me. So you have to be okay with existing outside of the norm, to just really owning and honoring yourself, your own truth, and holding space for yourself. You know, we have to show ourselves that love, that respect, so that we can really begin to live the life that we want to live and to be who we want to be. The only obstacle to these things is ourselves. There's no one holding a gun to your head saying that you have to be this way or that way. It's just you. It's all you. You know, so we have to become accountable to ourselves. And we have to recognize that, like, I am putting all this energy towards this thing that's actually destructive for me, that actually serves no purpose. I'm just existing. I'm just doing this thing that makes me feel good for a single moment. And once that moment is gone, I feel the suffering of its absence as a new desire takes place. And it doesn't do you any good. It's like we get in this constant cycle of just chasing something, chasing this illusory next thing, this future. Oh, next year, I tell you, like, it's gonna be so good. This summer, we're gonna live. We're gonna really do it. And then the summer comes, and I'm just doing the same thing I was doing before. Because it's not this whole thing where I gotta plan this big future. Because you just created an expectation that you most likely won't be able to meet. And when I can't meet it, I'm going to feel guilty. I'm going to feel ashamed. I'm going to suffer. And then that's going to drag me further down. You know, so we have to stop living for the goal of tomorrow and live for the goal of today. Live for what it is that we can do right here and now. I can't change the past. All I can do is do better. All I can do is try to move beyond it and keep learning. And in the future, I have no control over. I could leave here in an hour. I could die. I could leave here in an hour and find myself in some wild place, and it could be magical. I don't know. But I could spend my entire life fixated on what comes next and never actually live right here and now. You know, so I really just invite yourselves to take time to just sit with yourself. Just take a moment to just taking like just like letting it all out, letting all this bull that you're carrying for no reason. You don't owe anybody anything. You only are obligated to yourself. So if you want to be happy, do it. Why not? If you want to go join clown school, be a clown. If you want to go be a wandering mendicant, be a wandering mendicant. If you want to go travel, do it. You know, we gotta let go of these concepts of like, oh, society says that I need to go to high school, and then I need to go to college, and then I need to get married, and then I need to buy a house, and then I need to do this. We get in this thing of like, oh, I have to keep up with the Joneses. I have to do what society says is right. But we all hate it. No one's satisfied with it. You spend this whole thing, I'm like, oh man, I can't wait until I get this giant house. I work 70 hours a week so that I can have this beautiful house. And then I get that beautiful house and I'm still working 70 hours a week to get it, so I never actually get to enjoy it. You know, so we're just chasing. We're like, oh, if I just get this one more thing, if I get this new, I don't know, car, if I get this new t-shirt, whatever, that's it. It's gonna make me happy. But it doesn't. It's like chasing, it's like I have a bowl of ice cream, right? And I'm like, oh, I really want ice cream. So then when I get the ice cream, I'm like, well, you know what would make this ice cream better? What about like sprinkles and maybe a little chocolate syrup and maybe some whipped cream and then a cherry and then some nuts and then this. And every time I get the thing, I add another desire to take its place. And yet still, I remain unsatisfied. I eat the bowl of ice cream and then I suffer because now I don't have any more ice cream. And then I'm like, well, now what? What do I do with myself? I exist in this state of limbo, of sort of dissatisfaction, of having not actually really fulfilled my true desire. And now I have to chase the next thing. So, you know, bliss, all that stuff is just perspective. It's just all in our heads. You know, I mean, what is good for me might be bad for you, and vice versa. It's all perspective. There's no such thing as these universal concepts. It's just I'm existing here in this place, and now I'm doing my thing. And you just got to own it. You know, if you want to do something, you just got to say that I can do it. I have the power. I have the ability to do it right here and now. And it's a practice. You know, one of my great teachers, he said to me, every day is a new date with Maya. So Maya is illusion, distraction. It's these superficial concepts. It's these constructs that we believe that we have to live within. And so some days I'm going to wake up and the best that I can do is lay in bed all day and exist. And that's okay. That's fine. Be content in that, because that's what you need to do. Other days I'm going to wake up and I'm like, oh man, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to do an hour of my sadhana, my spiritual practice. I'm going to do 2 hours of yoga. Then I'm going to go dancing. And then I'm going to be exuberant. And I'm going to do all these things. But, you know, that's that day. And then the next day I wake up and I'm kind of tired. I didn't sleep very well. I have to go do this at noon and I have to go do that. And so it's just a daily practice, you know, not being hard on ourselves. You know, it's the combination of slow and small actions that lead us to the goal. You know, it's these steps that we take. You know, you don't climb a mountain. You don't just go from the bottom of the mountain to the top of the mountain. You have this whole thing in between. And I know there's a whole cliche of like, you're living the journey, right? You know, you're just along for the ride. But it's not that the journey itself isn't enjoyable. Like, you know, if you go hiking, I don't think, oh, I can't wait to be done with this hike. You know, I go on a hike and I'm like, oh, wow, there's this beautiful tree. Look at the sun in the sky. Look at how this thing, I'm talking with my friend. Look, I saw a deer. There's, you know, this. You know, it's presence. It's presence all around you. There's beautiful things happening. And if you really look at what I'm doing right here, right now, often we're going to find like, oh, well, like right now I'm sitting in a house. I'm on a comfortable bed. It's pretty warm. I'm not outside. I had food a little while ago. I'm not very thirsty right now. So I'm pretty happy, pretty content, right? So almost always, if I look at what I'm experiencing right now, for most of us, it's not going to be that bad. You know, but if I think about, oh, this morning I got up and, you know, the dog pooped on the floor, and then I got in my car, and then this person cut me off, and then this happened, and then that happened, and then I ran into a stoplight, and then this, we can fixate on those things all we want, but that doesn't make it for a bad day. So many of us, you know, we get caught up in the sort of necessity of the expectation. So like when the expectation isn't met, I'm like, oh, everything is terrible. The whole world is falling apart. Everything is just falling down. Woe is me. I'm just a victim of circumstance. The world is coming against me. But that's not the truth at all. It's just a matter of perception. That moment of suffering existed for a blip. And then now I'm on to the next moment. And I could choose to make the suffering of the previous moment the suffering of this moment and the next moment and the next moment. Or I can just move on. I can feel it. If I'm sad, I can be sad. But everything has a beginning, it has a peak, and it has an end. I don't need to hold on to it. Just like if I'm happy that I hung out with my friend. And we had this beautiful time period. And I could suffer because we're no longer hanging out. Or I can just appreciate that I had this moment. And I can cherish that moment. And then I can move into the next moment and I can cherish that. You know, so I just invite you to just sit with yourself and ask yourself, what is it that I truly want? What is it that I'm truly seeking? What truly makes me happy? You know, what do I want from my friendships? What do I want from my romantic life? You know, what do I want from my daily habits? All these things. And if I come up against an obstacle or a place of discomfort, just sort of sitting with it. And then think, oh, you know, that doesn't make me feel very good. Well, why? Why doesn't it make me feel very good? You know, if I'm afraid of something, why am I afraid of it? Often it has nothing to do with what's happening right now. It's something from my childhood. It's something that I'm associating for this or that. And when we can take time to understand those deeper aspects of ourselves, then we can become liberated from them. because I know where it comes from. I know the source of this. And if I know that there's a thorn in my foot, like if I have a pain in my foot, I can dance all around and be like, why is there this pain in my foot? I don't understand. But if I just take time to sit and look at my foot, I can see, oh, there's a little prick there. There's a little thorn. I can pull it out. And it's the same with our emotional self. It's the same with our intellectual and psychological self. If we take time to just sit with ourselves and be honest, then we can address the source of our suffering. And we can begin to move beyond it and move into this state of bliss. Our nature is truth. Our nature is love. Our nature is peace. You know, if you think about it, when you're joyful, if you're happy, you're in love, you're all these things, nobody asks, it's just like, oh, you're just existing, everything's fine. But the moment you're sad, the moment you're angry, all of a sudden people are like, whoa, what's wrong? What's going on? Like, why are you doing that? Like, something's obviously not right. Well, it's because that's sort of existing outside of our natural state. Our natural state is really quite blissful, is really quite radiant. And then when we get kind of caught up in the states of reactivity and all of these things that are happening around us, we begin to bubble up into all these other things. And while that has a great and beautiful purpose to experience anger, to experience sadness, to do these things, it's not the end all be all. It's the reaction to something that's happening in our environment. And then we just sort of move on. We just move beyond it. And then I can enjoy whatever comes next. So I'm going to play us a chant, and this chant is a chant to Shiva. So Shiva represents consciousness or potential, the potential of the whole universe, this thing that connects all of us. It is our true nature, it's that Satchitananda. So Satchitananda is truth, consciousness, and bliss. That's what Shiva represents. And Shiva is often seen as this ascetic yogi meditating in caves in the Himalayas, wearing nothing but a tiger skin, this renunciate. And, the beautiful thing about Shiva is that his counterpart, Parvati, she is the embodiment of all of the physical universe, all the physical potency and power of the entire universe. So he could live in the most exuberant of palaces, have all of the luxuries that life has to offer. But instead, he knows that these luxuries, these things in the material world, while I should enjoy them, I can enjoy them, it's not the thing that is the essence of true absolute bliss. That is something else. That's something that only comes from within us. It is this true connection to the deepest aspects of ourself. It's this full aspects of being fully embodied in who we are without compromise. Because who you are is beautiful. Who you are is radiant. Who you are is divine. It is God. And Shiva spends his time meditating on the bliss of the universe that is also the bliss of himself. And when you're in that state, it doesn't matter what austerity you're practicing. It doesn't matter what's happening in the material world. Because internally, we are absolute bliss. We are unconditional love. We're absolute truth. And when we can operate from that place, then anything becomes possible. And I can find the joy in everything. Everything is given to me as an offering. Everything is here for my benefit. If I'm suffering right now, it's something that's teaching me. It's preparing me. In order to grow something, I have to till the earth, right? I have to dig it up. I have to cause it sort of suffering. But through that process of causing suffering and experiencing suffering, I then make the ground ripe for growth, to be seeded with these things that I'm trying to nourish within myself, that I'm trying to remember and awaken and realize within myself. So during this chant, I just invite you to connect to your own sense of bliss, whatever that is. Doesn't have to be God. It doesn't have to be anything. It can just be the bliss of being where you're at right now, the bliss of what It's just what your day has been, all these things. So we're just going to do a chant, and I thank you guys all for being a part of this with me. So it's Om Namah Shivaya, Sada Shiva. So to the eternal Shiva, who is consciousness, who is all of the elements, who is the consciousness that is within all things. Om Namah Shivaya, Sada Shiva. Om Namah Shivaya, Sada Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Sada Shiva. Om Namah Shivaya, Sada Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Sada Shiva. Om Namah Shivaya, Sada Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Sada Shiva. Om Namah Shivaya, Sada Shivaya. Shiva Shiva Shambho, Sada Shiva. Shiva Shiva Shambho, Sada Shivaya. Shiva Shiva Shambho, Sada Shiva. Shiva Shiva Shambho, Sada Shivaya. Shiva Shiva Shambho, Sada Shiva. Shiva Shiva Shambho, Sada Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Sada Shiva. Om Namah Shivaya, Sada Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Sada Shiva. Om Namah Shivaya, Sada Shivaya. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah 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 Shivaya. Shivaya, Om Namah 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 Shiva, Sada Shiva, Om Namah Shiva, Sada So thank you guys all for watching and listening to me talk about all of this. Again, I just invite you to just really sit with yourself. Just take time to do things that bring you joy. And that can be simple. That can be having a nice breakfast. That can be going on a walk. That can be watching your favorite television show. That can be taking a moment to meditate, to sing a song in the shower. Just unapologetically be yourself. Be who you want to be. Don't feel like you have to be anything that you aren't. Stop telling yourself that lie. Stop just doing all that. What good does it do? Often, people wouldn't even ask us to do something. A lot of times they thought that it would cause us suffering. But we do it anyways. We silently do it and we suffer. We don't say anything. If we had just opened our mouth and been like, hey man, I can't do that right now. This isn't actually what serves me. This isn't actually what I identify with. This isn't something that I can do. Then most of the time people will be like, oh, thank you for telling me. I'll ask somebody else. You don't gotta fulfill everything for everyone. Fulfill what is right for you. Fulfill what is true to you. And just be that. Be here now. Be present in your life. Fulfill the dreams of today, and then the dreams of tomorrow will just happen. So just do it. Live life. You are bliss. You are happiness. Your unconditional love, your truth. Just show yourself the same love that you show the person you love most in the world. And if you can do that, then you're going to love that person even more. You're going to love everyone else in your life even more. And if we can just communicate our needs and our wants and our desires, all these things more honestly and more effectively, then so much of the suffering, so much of the conflict that's happening in our world right now could be resolved. There's plenty enough out there for all of us. All of us can be abundant. All of us can be in joy. And once we stop saying that that's impossible, then it becomes possible. So just let's do it. Let's be a part of the change. Let's be present in it and just live the best life that we can live. Thank you guys so much. Namaste.